This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 55.
How you doing?
Welcome to the apocalypse. Now, anybody that doesn't think we're in it, I don't know where you live, but welcome to my world. Brooklyn, New York, we've been at about 100 degrees for 13 days.
Oh, God. No end in sight. I don't know if it's going to be that hot, but it's not dipping below 78 at 5 a.m. It's maybe the coldest it'll be. Fortunately, it's not as humid as it was last week.
Oh, what small relief. Thank you very much.
All right. Well,
so generous, yeah. Doesn't matter. There are bigger problems than my discomfort.
Correct.
I would love to go right into them. I was just watching that corrupt, lying, fat fuck Barr, that would be Attorney General.
Oh, God.
Continue to suck Trump's winky dink, lying. Bigger picture before we get into that. The rich cunt Republicans and their lack of signing the new pandemic relief, because they don't give a shit, they're all fucking millionaires. 47% of Americans are now jobless. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And we got Moscow Mitch talking out both sides of his jowl, saying, oh, the American people need more help. So he decides to slash pandemic relief to individuals to $200 a mighty white of you, Mitch.
It's basically for these red states that are broke. They want to force them to go back to work. The big bullshit line yesterday was, oh, if you're paying people so much money, quote unquote, they're not going to go back to their shitty jobs.
And then henceforth, you raise the fucking minimum wage. And what is
Exactly.
what about the creep, one of the biggest creeps in Congress, Lindsey Graham, two-faced liar, over our dead bodies?
Well, literally.
Are we going to, and you know what? Is that an invitation?
Seriously. I mean, basically, he's saying your shitty states to have no social safety net. Now you have to go and risk your lives as we sit there and watch you risk your lives. The other obsession they have is about forcing people to go back in school. Now, the big issue in New York,
which of course, Barron won't be going back to school.
Well, that's the thing. Well, so New York yesterday expanded a food stamp thing for residents, for anyone who has a kid, and for every kid, because the big factor is one of the most federally subsidized things is school lunches. What they don't want to deal with, they're basically forcing people to go back to school so the kids don't start starving. That's all really what it is.
Not only are they going to be hungry, they're going to be homeless because...
Let's talk about school lunches to begin with. So it's like, what the...
The federal moratorium on evictions has already expired. Millions of people by October, millions, maybe possibly not only dozens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions of people might very well be homeless. 23 million U.S. families could be evicted by October. That's according to the COVID Eviction Defense Project. Where are they going to go? You know where I think they should go? I mean, why do you think Trump he's getting his fucking wall? Where is it going? Around the White House? And I say wall that cunt in anyway, but he's building a fucking wall around the White House because, he didn't get his, how is he going to get it built across the Rio Grande anyway? He's getting his own wall. You know why? Everybody's going to go and squat on the White House lawn. Imagine that. Everybody who's homeless. Let's go.
Didn't that happen with the veterans after World War I? And it was similar. They sent in like some military. I was going through the list of like all this military policing in the history of America. And there was a similar situation.
Before COVID, I mean, one of the largest populations of homeless are the veterans.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because they've been lied to straight up and down. The largest population is in Texas.
And you cut social services for mental health, and it just ends up feeding the problem more, unfortunately. But that's how that goes, right? I mean,
this was another horrifying fact. Centers for Disease Control admitted that a lot of the early COVID tests they set out were probably contaminated. The Food and Drug Administration had concluded that, and because of substandard manufacturing practices. Well, welcome to America. I mean, it seems like really hard to manufacture anything except for false amounts of money called stocks.
We're witnessing the downside of hyper-privatization of everything. And then, of course, the anti-Nader kind of quality control, consumer rights and all that stuff just eroded. And then you have basically no regulation, no standards.
It's not a good thing. It's kind of grotesque that now it is about 150,000 Americans who have died. Well, that's just by their count, and I don't believe it. I'm sure it's much more. But if you want to adjust for population, Americans are currently dying from COVID around 15 times the rate of Europeans or Canada. Because I wonder why. Because there's an idiot in charge who started wearing a mask 6 months in, he wore it twice, to the problem.
That's where they're at. And it's so that we have basically two options. It's either let's let people die, or we got to start all over again like it's February. And of course, really, that's what you kind of have to do, right?
And the theory is he only started wearing the masks when his people, started dying.
Well, didn't his defense advisor, isn't he?
Closing in.
Didn't he get test positive? Yeah.
So did one of his son's girlfriends, the same one that was getting like $180,000 for job not done.
If he gets infected, he's going to, first of all, I doubt we'll even find out. And the other thing is he'll be pumped with so many antibodies. What was that thing today about all those psycho doctors
the one who believes in alien DNA and sperm, and if you have dreams about demons and witches, that's why you have endometriosis. This is who he's tweeting about.
Oh, yeah. If you have dreams about having sex with a demon, that's why you have warts on your vagina.
I mean, excuse me. First of all, to some people, these are not dreams. And second of all, I don't have sex with anybody who's not a witch. I'm just saying. I love this report, though. And this I do believe to be true, because we know that dogs, with their incredible sense of smell, that's why they hunt for drugs, have been known to sniff out cancer before.
Yes, they have.
And now a University of Veterinary Medicine in Hanover found that dogs trained for only 1 week can actually sniff out COVID in saliva. And their rate of accuracy is 94%, which is higher than any of the tests that have been manufactured anywhere. This is one reason to actually release the dogs.
I agree. But correct me if I'm wrong. Can't dogs get COVID? Or is it cats? We don't want to give it to them, right?
I say masks for everybody's dogs. I've said burqas for all men forever. I mean, imagine people would have followed my rule of thumb, because it's mostly men that don't want to wear the mask. If they would have been forced to wear the burqas, we wouldn't be in this position right now. I don't need to see their ugly fucking faces. Yes, dogs can probably get COVID, but you want to sacrifice Lassie or another 1,000 nurses and ambulance drivers.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a point to that. There is also, just so much dissonance and so much gridlock in this country. I mean, there would definitely be some animal rights people that would definitely view dogs at a higher level than humans. I do with some of them. There would be a little blowback, but I think we could probably figure out a way to safely.
Some humans are dogs, but most dogs are not human. Let's face fact. I really loved the Wall of Moms in Portland.
Oh, yes.
I have to say, the idiot in charge, you do not quell violence by sending in unnamed, untagged goon squads to try to quell something. And that was getting so out of control in Portland that first there was the Wall of Moms, then there was the Wall of Dads, then there was the Wall of grandmothers and grandfathers, but best of all, funny. And my favorite, were the Wall of leaf blowers.
Oh, well, yes. And those leaf blowers against leaf blowers, it started becoming like a performance art. It was like the gas flying everywhere and everyone's got a leaf blower.
Well, the thing is, they said that there was not really a rise in buying of leaf blowers. I guess everybody in Portland has a leaf blower. They talked about one guy that had like a 1 foot long one strapped to a belt around his shoulder, like a mini machine gun. But they were just blowing the tear gas back in the face.
Finally, there's a real usage for a proper reason to even have a leaf blower. I always thought those things sucked so badly. They were really loud. And I remember with Simon one time, by hours, the eve of
That would be Simon Slater, the producer.
Yes. We were driving in, I think, Crown Heights or something. And there was this guy with a leaf blower about 2 hours before Hurricane Sandy hit. Now, everyone knew it was going to happen. I was like, I don't know what you're trying to do, because Hurricane Sandy is like Mother Nature's leaf blower. I mean, that's going to blow everything everywhere. Like, what are you trying to even clean up at this point?
I myself prefer a weed whacker. I don't know. That would be great. Cut off their ankles.
Well, what about Frosty the Snowman's girlfriend? The snowblower. Sorry.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about either.
Following up on Portland, I mean, a group of 5 women and 2 organizations, including members of Black Lives Matter and the Wall of Moms group, they've actually sued the Trump administration filing a lawsuit alleging that several agencies, Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Federal Protective Service, violating people's constitutional rights of free speech, assembly, due process. And you know what I say? Good luck.
And, Oregon is loaded with survivalist gun nuts. I mean, where are they now? I mean, what a bunch of cowards.
I loved seeing the black militia in Louisville who came out fully armed. One thing that was tossed in that liar's bar's face today is there have been, for instance, a lot of white supremacists fully armed doing a lot of damage. Nobody seems to have gone after them or said a damn word about it.
Man, this is a hunch and probably wrong. Who knows? But I think Barr's got some death threat because he's acting so nuts. Like, what the hell is he doing this? He's afraid. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit because you were talking about Portland, Oregon.
Well, it could go back to what we said before, the bar Epstein, the Epstein bar.
I like the Epstein bar. All right, so we're talking about Portland, Oregon. I want to talk about Portland, Maine, which was in the news, or right outside of Portland, Maine.
Shark attack?
A death. A New York City resident who probably was in Maine hiding from New York City during COVID and the protests, and then she gets mauled to death by a great white shark. I mean, that's, oh God. But yeah.
Sharks need love too. That's all I can say. I love sharks. They're almost extinct. They're greatest killing machines. You can't blame a shark biting somebody, but you can blame somebody for being in shark-infested waters.
They closed 3 beaches in Long Island. There's rumors there was bull sharks were around. It was a 10-footer yesterday, and they were like, we're not going to mess with this one.
What about that pretty sad story about the orca mom who carried, while grieving, her dead baby for like 17 days?
And now
she's like pregnant again, but there's fears for her life.
I think there's like under 100 shark attacks a year on humans. Humans kill estimated 100 million sharks every year. 100 million every year.
Unbelievable. So ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they are the perfect machine.
Oh, they've been here for millions of years.
It doesn't matter what you're killing. If you're killing something at the rate of 100 million, 100,000, 10,000, or like American population, 150,000 in a few months, it's wrong. It's just wrong. And of course, that bigoted, racist, that would be the so-called president, I don't call him that, I call him the resident of the White House, would not show his filthy orange face. The man who singularly did the most for civil rights, as he laid in state.
That's in the Senate. I mean,
yes, John Lewis. But I mean, look, we have to go back and understand exactly what he did. The man from the age of 17, 18, when he first met Martin Luther King, was protesting. At like the age of 21, 22, he's giving a speech on the same platform as Martin Luther King, who said, I have a dream. Now, I have the speech. I have a nightmare, and it's about Donald Trump. Available in my book, So Real It Hurts, 7 Stories Press, audible.com. Just go give it a listen. You know what I'm talking about. We know that the history of John Lewis was incredible, how much he did. I mean, Selma, Rosa Parks. But even recently, what was amazing about him is, he spoke at the Women's March in 2017, advocating for women's rights. He was one of the 8 only members of Congress gathered outside the Customs and Border Protection offices to protest the Trump administration of separating children, babies from parents. And he spoke for years before it was even brought really into the public eye about, rights for LGBT people. I mean, he thought that race, sex, gender, preference, they're all being, hatred is put against all of them, and that has to be corrected. So he was speaking about that and the rights for same-sex people to marry long before it actually was passed into law. Now, he was called the conscience of the Congress, and let's face it, there's not many left that have a fucking conscience.
Well, all right, so I'm going to play a little. I mean, this guy's an American hero. I get it. He wasn't perfect.
Except for me,
exactly. And I don't think people need to be perfect. I was a little disappointed when in the primary Hillary against Bernie in 2016, when he basically kind of lied, like saying that Hillary, who was a Goldwater supporter. He's like, I saw her there, but I didn't see Bernie, and Bernie was marching. It was politics. I understand Washington, and Hillary needed the Southern black vote. And of course, you're not going to get a better endorsement than John Lewis. So that's politics. But ultimately, he kind of helped her get the nomination and really through the Southern black vote, which
he's got one strike against him.
Well, I agree. But let's go back to the memorial service. Mitch McConnell was there speaking. It's those rituals of like, when I see those fraternity rituals of the Senate, like he still has to go.
I mean, at what nerve
so creepy.
Mitch McConnell has to speak.
Yeah, I do. As a majority leader, piece of shit.
As I've said before, when the hungry zombie apocalypse, which will be America very soon, when nobody has any money and there are no more jobs and people are still dying from COVID, the first thing I want to chew on is Mitch McConnell's jowls.
God.
That was just to make you sick.
Does Mitch McConnell like Mitch McConnell? Like, does anyone like him? Does he even like himself?
Does he
what's
even,
going on?
Enough said. Speak about jokers. What about, and by the way, I had to watch it about 3 times, and I have to say, The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix was one of my favorite films of all times. Absolutely.
Wow, of all times. Wow.
Well, Fight Club, In a Glass Cage, Singapore Sling, but it was pretty phenomenal. But what we had this week, our little version of it, somebody dressed as the Joker on jet skis in the East River. We need to laugh occasionally. I don't know what that was all about.
Yes, I don't know either. I saw the Joker on the airplane. Hey, great acting performance. Although when I see any movie in the airplane, my brain's in a different place. So I don't know if it's a good gauge or not. But
well, I don't watch anything more than once unless. I mean, look, that was just an amazing performance.
Yes, I guess I agree. I'm usually actors don't impress me at all, but I guess that was a great performance.
Tim Tall, what does impress you?
Oh, you do. And Simon Slater.
Because I'm an athlete. I'm a verbal athlete.
You're also athletic too. I mean, I
have to reveal this. I'm sorry. I'm going to get a little personal here, Tim.
Okay, please.
The other night, Tim Dahl was at my house.
Oh boy.
He was a bit ripe. He began discussing things that really kind of. Look, I have violence in my blood, and it's been pretty much on hold for quite a while now. But sometimes Tim and I, we're very explosive together. We're usually on the same side of the fence, but he just kept. It wasn't even what he was saying, or it was really the subject matter, and it just kept inspiring me to become more and more violent as the hours went on. And it was about at 4 a.m. And I respect you totally for this, because you know what I'm capable of. Because I do admit it, when I'm feeling violent, I send out a warning. It's like a tornado warning, because I don't want to do damage to an unsuspecting mark unless I really feel like it. But you graciously first offered me your arm and then your solar plexus. And this was the line I came up with. Well, first of all, I don't fuck with anybody who's not a martial artist, for the most part. Okay. And I said, Tim, I will sever your spleen. And that did kind of calm you down. Well,
and I'm glad you brought that. I mean, that's how Houdini.
Because I did not, but exactly. And it was a very kind and generous offer, because you have seen the damage I can possibly.
But that I have to stop saying things like that, which I usually don't. I don't think I've ever even asked someone to punch me in the gut.
Well, you've never asked me before, but you know what? Don't let that stop you from asking again, because someday.
That's what killed Houdini. That's what killed Houdini. Yes.
You know the Sicilian proverb, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it.
Sure. Yeah, Houdini made the mistake. He's like, that was his big magic trick when he did these performances. Like, anyone could punch me in the gut. And he had trained to kind of tighten up his gut. And of course, he got sucker punched in a bar by some drunk guy. Like, I thought anyone could punch you in the gut. And just like, was it a spleen? Something ruptured and he just died.
Well, just putting out the warning. Now, I really like this story, and it kind of leads to our next guest, who is Buck Angel. The sex-crazed monkeys of Thailand that are terrorizing the entire population. They're breaking into houses. They're stealing food, stealing people's bags, watches, jewelry, pulling people's pants down. And it's because, first of all, the tourists are not there, so they're not feeding them. And then the people there are feeding them junk food, which is causing them to become more aggressive. I don't know why that leads to Buck Angel, because I don't know what his diet was. But I'm sure he can relate, because they're called macaques.
Okay. All right. Okay. Buck was one of the last persons that we interviewed
In person.
In person, before it was right before we flew back to New York from LA. And we were supposed to see Buck and his girlfriend. They were supposed to have a
meeting or a performance or something.
But it got canceled. And then, of course, everyone was in lockdown. But Buck's passion and commitment, well, it was an open canvas for me. I didn't know what to expect. I think we all got along famously. It was actually a very cool interview. I enjoyed it very much.
Hey, if you're weird, if you're different, if you are against the norm, if you've done your own thing, if you refuse to submit, unless under the right conditions, of course, I don't care what you do or who you are, I'm interested. And that's why this is The Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. This is The Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Buck Angel. I don't even know how to begin to describe you except at this point a sex educator, an informational wealth of outsider status, which inspires other people to be what they are, who began by creating their own version of pornography because it didn't really exist.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
Let's talk a little about the Buck Angel Enterprises.
Right on.
How did that come about?
Well, I think mostly it came about because I didn't see myself represented in pornography.
What do you consider yourself to be?
A man with a vagina, a man with a pussy.
I kind of consider myself the same thing. A man with tits. I'm like, I'm in drag.
A man with tits.
But I'm in drag every day. Maybe that can be the follow-up. Big Lou is in the motherfucking house with Buck Angel.
That's right.
But you didn't see yourself represented the same way I didn't see myself represented in art.
Yeah.
So we had to create our own.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you have the balls to do that? Like, all right, you want to do it. How do you do it?
Right on.
How did you do it?
Well, I did it in a way that it's hard to explain because I saw it not there, right?
And
I was working in pornography.
You were already
this was 20 years ago. I created the genre of trans male porn.
And how were you working in pornography?
So I was working with, I had a wife who was a female, who was a dominatrix. And so we were creating films around her work.
Would she practice on you?
Of course. That's how you become a good top.
Nice.
You have to learn from the bottom up, as I like to say.
Yeah, it's
Top
very
from the
real.
bottom.
Very real. Long story short, I didn't see any trans male. I saw trans women in porn, but I did not see any trans men in porn. And they were all calling themselves chicks with dicks, lady boys, she-males.
And now we have Ms. Neon, the ultimate chick with a dick, or I don't even know what to call that beautiful creature.
Yeah, chicks with I mean, so I saw the reverse, a man with a pussy. So that's how I came up with my tagline, and that's how I realized it didn't exist. So I became Buck Angel, the man with a pussy, against much backlash.
That's where I want to go, because usually when you're on
convention,
they hated me.
When you're on the frontier, and we did a podcast with Maria Beatty, who's a lesbian BDSM director, producer, and she's like, it didn't exist. I want to create this. And she couldn't believe even her own peers.
I know.
Not the enemies. The peers are coming after.
Yes.
Well, she had to send me an ass pic after I whipped her ass. That was the price I had to pay for that podcast. Anyway, since you've already been there, I'll take it easy on you today, baby Buck. Don't worry about it.
And basically, once you're doing that and you're saying like, whoa, look at all this resistance, is your response, fuck you, I'm doing it harder, or you just kind of ignore it and just keep on moving?
Oh, no, I'm that man. When you push against me, I'm going to push back even harder. It's the only reason I'm sitting where I'm sitting today, yeah.
Well, and also, there might have been a lot of hatred. There has been against me as well for different reasons.
Sure.
But then there's also the ones you have to do it for. And they must have started coming around, and you must have started finding your own like-minded characters. And especially in LA, there were people that were pursuing to press the boundary of acceptance, including Ron Athey and, in fact, Keir Musafar was out here, and Bob Flanagan, one of my heroes. I love Bob Flanagan.
Those are all pioneers and elders of the community.
And so are you. You were the next step on from that.
Yeah. So I didn't know that I was going to be sitting here with you or doing what I'm doing today. That was never my objective.
You're just doing what you're going to do at the time.
I just wanted to make pornography, and I wanted to become a billionaire.
Well, you made pornography.
But I'm not a billionaire.
Well, you gotta fuck harder next time. You were fucking the wrong people, honey. When you find that person that's got the money, you fuck them, I'll rob them.
it was very hard for me to be a pioneer in the porn industry, which people don't understand. It's a very conservative industry, and it's because it's about money. It's not about freedom of speech. It's not about any of that.
The main object of pornography is to make money.
Money.
And of course, that's changed. The model's changing with the internet.
Right.
It's so
and
insane.
then that came along. So I'm way pre-internet, and so once internet came on, they literally stole all my product. I had to do cease and desist. Finally, I got tired of it, and I just let it all go, which was the best thing I did because it marketed me faster and bigger into the world.
Well, it's like YouTube. For me, it's like I can't stop all that stuff from being free access, and I don't even want to because I didn't get into doing what I do thinking I was going to make money.
Right.
I'm thinking, and I always knew the live performances were going to make the money. I'm happy that people can access it.
Right on.
You know, it's like I'm not going to charge people for the YouTube.
Right on.
And that's the beauty of also doing this podcast is showing that there is a community of weirdos and outsiders, creative people, stubborn people who are not going to stop, like you, Buck Angel.
Right on.
And the trajectory of your career was very interesting because you are literally bucking against everything. You are bucking against the system. You are creating your own genre because it doesn't exist. You get ripped off. You're not stopping. When at that point did you decide, now I got to start talking about the curative powers of being yourself?
It sort of came very naturally. People started seeing my work and they said, your work is bigger than pornography. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, you have a story. And then I was asked to speak at like one of the very first TED Talks in Canada.
Fantastic.
And that just blew, like immediately they're like, dude, you're a natural storyteller. And I was like, whatever. But then I realized my story of transition is not only my story of pornography, my story of transitioning from a woman to a man when nobody else was doing it. So 25 years ago, I transitioned. And
it wasn't being talked about. I mean, it's only really the last 5 years.
That's right. That's right.
That people have become more open to accepting the fact we are not all alike. We are individual. And some things there are just no definition for.
That's right.
Like, and whatever. It, they, them, who, you, me, what.
Whatever. Who cares?
I mean, I don't know how to define myself.
Of course.
My legs are spread wider than yours, honey.
We have this thing about identity, though.
Are you a gaper or a caper? That's what I like to call Let me define. With men, they say they're a grower or a shower.
Right.
With pussy, I say you're either a gaper or a caper. I'm a caper.
I'm a gaper. Are you kidding?
Bet you
I'm a pig. My sexuality is totally pig. That's it.
Pig.
Pig.
Pig and Biggie. Biggie Piggy. I just had to ask. I mean, but
picture that, kids.
So you go from resistance
pussy to pussy.
You go from resistance to being
that.
asked to do a TED Talk, and there must be a satisfaction in this, or you're just kind of confused and watching like what's going on. I mean,
because it was very difficult for me to walk through my fear of public speaking because I was a very shy person.
Okay.
I wasn't this person you see here. Becoming a man has made me
so
very
transition
confident.
was a transition in many forms.
In many forms, how I react to the world, how I walk the world, how confident I am.
How
in
old were you when
do.
you were coming into your confidence?
Well, I would say the transition did that. So that I was in my late 20s.
So, I mean, say from the age of like 8 to 28, you're
a mess.
A mess.
You're
suffering. You're
alcoholism,
confused. Don't know where to go. Who to turn to.
Homelessness. I can go on and on.
Okay.
Because when you feel that outside of everything, you will push yourself further outside of everything.
100%. And back in the day, nobody talked about trans. They talked about gay. I was a gay woman.
Yeah. Or talked about trauma.
None of it.
And basically the trauma of birth.
Oh, there you go. Right on. Being squeezed out of that hole.
The cancer of birth.
Would you say with a little bit of your with the resistant element when you started going into pornography, were you getting it more from asshole guys or uptight girls?
No, this is so great question. So I created a genre that didn't exist.
Yes.
Who is my customer base?
Right.
I literally had to make 3 different films. One with me and women, cisgender biological women, one with me and cis biological men, and then one with me with both women and men and trans. The one with me and men sold like mad. Gay men were my hugest customer base. And they're the ones who stepped up.
I mean, again, when you say gay, there's so many different varieties of what gay is.
Yes.
And again, it's like a pigeonholing a definition.
Right on.
I mean, most people that are intellectually advanced or psychologically more expansive, it's not one thing.
No, it's not, but that's what happened. I had introduced a man with a pussy. Nobody had ever seen that sexually.
Right.
The gay men were losing their shit because they're like, oh, I'm really attracted to you, but like I've never had sex with a vagina before. I'm like, dude, it's a hole. You stick your dick in holes all the time.
That's right.
It's not going to be a problem.
You know what? It has a slightly different elasticity, scent, and what is it called? Well, gooiness.
And grippiness.
And
like
grippy,
you can grip
gooey,
your vagina
grippy.
more than you can grip your ass.
Well, I don't know about that. I grip them both pretty tight.
You're making peace in the holy wars over here.
That's a great name for my next film. Thank you very
Buck
much.
Angel, the true holy wars.
I'll credit you for that. Holy wars.
Holy war. I mean, and it's something I talk about just in general about war. All war is a holy war.
That's
We know
right.
your war
That's
has
right.
been. My war is never over. Your war is the holy
And
war.
I could fuck everyone from every religion. Oh my God, it's the best film ever.
Well, look, all religions have fucked us.
That's
All
right.
religions have fucked us. They need to be butt fucked
That's
back.
right.
Hello.
I know I'm getting older as a male when the dad puns just come out of my mouth, and I don't even think about it. It's like, oh my God, it's just coming out.
It totally is.
Well, we're
That's so
having a
good.
very good time with Buck Angel here, but a lot of your early life, there was no fun because you didn't know where to turn to. I mean, was it around the age of 6 or 8 that you realized you were not other? You were other. You were not others.
Right. No, I'm very lucky. I have great parents, really, and I grew up in the 60s. I'm 57. So 60s and 70s, we didn't have what we have today. My parents really, they treated me like Buck. I was a boy. I was tomboy, right? Okay. Tomboy.
Yeah.
Did you have siblings?
Yes, I have an older sister and a younger sister. And everyone treated me like their brother.
Okay.
It was puberty. Puberty was the culprit in making me not like myself, hating life because I got boobs, I got my period.
you didn't want
I
that
became
stuff.
a woman.
Yeah.
I became a woman when I was always Buck, and then all of a sudden here I am as Laura, and I'm like,
And I mean,
what?
that's very lucky, though, to have parents that accept you for being who you are.
Very lucky.
So many people do
But
not
they
have
didn't
that.
accept me once puberty came in. So
And
that was the
that was a
problem.
hormonal rush, and then you started doing another hormonal rush.
Yes.
And were the just the kind of cliches? Did they all come out?
Of course.
Did you get more aggressive?
Oh, and the pressure and bullyism in school.
Before the hormone trend, I was the meanest, angriest woman alive.
Amazing.
What are you, my sister? Brother?
For real, I wanted to kill everybody. It was the testosterone that made me the calm.
People don't understand.
They don't. And I had unequal hormones.
yes.
And my
And it
hormones.
and it
it's a
balanced you
real
out.
thing. And then that balanced me, and I could focus, and I could be. And people treated me like a boy. That's why I tell the world, you have to understand when somebody doesn't feel the correct space that everyone sees. When you saw me as a woman, I wanted to kill myself. I'm the same person. I just changed the outside to fit the inside. And now I can literally walk the world with I'm successful in all my businesses and my life and my relationships.
Because you're successful in yourself.
Exactly. That's the point of my transition being public and why I talk about it. Because if you don't let people, I don't care if you're gay, straight, rock and roll, or
call
punk
it
rocker,
what you will.
You got to be passionate about your life, and everything will change. It's the only reason I'm sitting
Well,
here.
the thing is, so much self-hatred is
Oh my
put
God.
upon us by other people.
That's
It's something
right.
that I never suffered
That's
from,
right.
which has been really one of my saving graces. And I
Yeah.
think that's why people come to me is my hatred is all out. My hatred is huge, and it's never been against me.
Right.
It's always been against the enemy, which is patriarchy, which is those
right.
that bully other people, which is those that take away the freedoms, incarcerate, keep us poor. My anger has never been against myself. Because
Right.
I love
No, you're right.
myself. But
Exactly
that's
right.
one thing I hope to bring to my audience is they always say, Lydia, we love you. I'm like, you'll never love me as much as I love myself, and love yourself.
Right on.
Because I don't have the time to do it.
I want to go to touch on culture and science a little bit, because when you're that rogue and you can't trust doctors and you have to, but then of course it can be very dangerous at the same time. So John Hopkins was the gold standard
Right.
for transitions forever.
Right.
And so how do you do this in a very safe way? And how, you're experimenting with
You
your.
found someone.
Well, I actually am an actual experiment.
You
so
are the
when I did
experiment.
it, both
What
of
a
my
success.
doctors said to me, "You're going to be my guinea pig." They literally used those words.
So you had doctors you could trust, which is
Well,
good.
I had no choice. I couldn't necessarily trust them. I had
Had to do
trust
it.
them.
Yeah.
You had to
But
do
my
it.
mantra always was, if it doesn't work out, I'll kill myself. That was literally
Fair
something
enough.
I said constantly. I said, the first needle went in, I said, I don't know how I'm going to look. I couldn't pick up this cell phone and Google trans man
There
pictures.
wasn't
They didn't-
Google
I didn't
then.
even have this. So I had
Those cell phones
literally
don't
had to
Google.
go in it blind saying,
Wait, right around here you were doing
there was
that?
no, I literally had to
Where
go.
was it? He was saying?
Yeah.
So
So
Yeah, it was LA.
LA,
I transitioned in LA.
Because
I was the
a lot
first-
of people go to
No. I
other
found a
countries and stuff like
doctor.
that.
I found a doctor at UCLA who only worked with transgender
Amazing.
women.
Amazing. Okay.
So I was his first
Wow.
transgender man, and he was like, "I don't know what I'm doing, dude. And
We're
if you're
gonna try.
cool, we can try it." Same with my chest surgery. I was the first guy to have this particular chest
No,
surgery
look,
in the
in
United
any
States.
surgery, I mean, I've
Yeah.
had many surgeries for many different
Sure.
things. Never had to enhance these beauties or take them
Right
away.
on.
But
Right
I'm
on.
just saying, surgeries are so invasive invasive. I mean, if you're getting like a
right.
cyst removed from Dr.
right.
Pimple Popper, I mean, surgeries
Yeah.
are. I mean, there's a lot of recovery. There's a lot of not.
Well, there's
knowing.
a lot of unknowns, especially when I did it. I went to doctors before the one that did mine, and they said, "Well, we won't do that. That's mutilation. That's disgusting. That's gross." That's what they said to me.
So there's a psychological negotiation that's
Yes.
hard to begin with.
So then you're dealing with all these people pushing against you. I had no friends. I had no internet.
Because you hadn't found the because there was no internet.
All my
and you
friends
hadn't
left
found
me.
the
They were
people
all gay
yet.
women who said you're
Bitches.
a traitor and fuck you for becoming a man. They literally
and again,
bailed on me.
Fuck you for becoming yourself.
That's right.
Well, the thing is, in identity culture, people are so shocking that people are so afraid of individuality.
Oh, yeah, it's
and,
real.
And they want this
Yep.
conformity because their whole identity is based on these margins,
got
and
it.
they're actually not the laser
They're
game
not-
of self.
It's like punk rock.
Yes,
they're
it's
so
exactly punk
limited
rock.
in what they play, how they look.
Yep.
It's a very limited parameter
Yep.
because it's really not any of these movements are not about
not.
individuality.
No, it's not. Right
It's
on.
about conforming to another uniform.
Right.
But I always feel like it's also cheap. Because you're selling yourself, and you're not
Right.
you're not brave enough to be yourself.
That's why I get hit on in my community, because I do stand out and stand apart, and I think differently. I don't speak their language. What does my hat say? Say it.
Tranny as fuck, or
That's
tranny
right.
AF. Yeah.
So, as we know, we're not allowed to say tranny. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Watch this. And so, this is the point. We cannot do this in our communities. Individuality creates community, not the opposite way. Community does not create individuality. If you don't come into it as an individual, you will not create a community. We've created cult-like behavior in all of our communities.
And that's why I've been involved in many different so-called
Sure.
movements
Sure.
as the instigator of many of them. But I always felt outside of all of them, even though I do bring people together.
Right on.
Because I do bring individuals together. And even when I say that I'm about my coven of witches, they're all incredibly individual, and there is no judgment.
But that's your inner circle, and I've seen you be very critical even of some of your fans who think they can put you in a box, and they think like you've created this thing as an individual, and they think, well, these are the boundaries, and they have to sit here. And it's like, no, that's not where I'm coming from.
Right.
Like you, people have painted their hate on my face.
Of course
and you
they
know
have.
what? Bring it on, because you know what? You will never take me down.
No, it's a compliment. It's a compliment.
I
It
don't
means
give
you're
a
touching.
shit.
It is. It's a it means you are touching on something
what?
they don't want to talk
If you
about. And they
hate
have
me,
fear.
you hate yourself.
It's exactly right. It's a fear-based thing. It's why people attack me.
Yeah,
It's
people
a
come to
fear-based.
us for the love they
Yes.
never had at home.
Exactly. And also they see us as being brave because we don't follow an agenda.
And
I
we
will
don't
never
give a
follow
shit.
an agenda.
And you know what?
Ever.
Look,
Ever.
I want everyone to be how they are, whatever
tolerance,
that is.
tolerance.
I want to bring people
You'd think that's what it would
into
be
being
about.
the most they can be, whatever that means. Nobody is here to please me. I'm not
No,
here to
right
please
on,
anybody else.
right on.
Please your motherfucking self, save yourself, and then get over
But
whatever.
they don't know how. That's why they look at us and they say bad things, because they really want what
But
we have.
others look at us and say good things because they have been inspired. I don't give a shit about the haters.
right on.
Nobody hates as much as I do. I don't hate the individual though.
That's brilliant.
Why would I hate one single man when I can hate the whole fucking species?
Right on.
Hey, I don't like women any better. What I like is individuals.
Individuals, right on.
People go,
I'm with you.
how is your audience different from city to city? I'm like, it's not an audience. It's
Right.
a collection of individuals. I can't
Brilliant.
sum them up.
That's right. Right on.
Tell us about your educational work. So then, your first thing was TED Talks, which is pretty much starting at the top, honey.
Yeah, I guess on some
Oh,
level.
man.
I mean,
Although TED
yeah.
Talk was just starting that, but still,
Yeah, we
TED
start-
Talk is very
No, it is
there's
very respectful.
incredible people.
Yeah,
in
I
that.
spoke at all the major universities, Yale, Cornell, all of them, but I got totally pushed against. At Yale, they were giving me death threats.
Who's they?
Alumni. People from the actual school of Yale, the University of
So it's
Yale.
like what, old wasps?
Old white men telling me if I come there, they will kill me.
And
They
you know what? Why don't
literally-
they just
Yes,
kill
they-
themselves? Kill
I
yourself.
said, bring it on, bitch. And
Yeah.
then they said at Yale, you can't do that. We have to get you 24 hours security.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all, no. How about if I wait
You
in the
know,
middle of
those
the...
people that threaten don't follow.
No, I know.
through.
They're all full of shit. But my
Whatever.
point being is that, wow. These are prestigious, in quote unquote, schools of prestigious academic thinking. I didn't even graduate high school.
I
have
didn't
no
either.
formal
Hello,
education.
10th grade
Hello,
dropout.
Right on,
Goodbye.
my friend.
Gotta do the
Goodbye.
work.
Fuck you. That's the kind of shit that I have to deal with. These
I get death threats sometimes for just by being in a band.
Child abuse. Well, look, wait. Let's
It's insanity.
back up for a minute. Supposed institutions of higher education in this country are born to breed
Yes.
conformitist,
There you go.
business,
Brilliant.
boring,
That's right.
corporate kleptos.
That's right.
They have no desire to influence or to inspire individuals. It's come here and go along with the program. Who from Yale, other than, excuse me, maybe Rachel Mason, has been a fucking individual? They're mostly corporate killers.
Well,
That's
they jump one. They're one side. They either go academia or they go destruction of the whole earth. It's like, where do you
But
fall?
don't you love it that as high school dropouts, we speak at universities?
No, it's brilliant.
We teach workshops.
It's brilliant.
Because we're the real educators.
That's right.
So what do you teach when you go around town? Do you do workshops? Do you do talks? How is it that you are going around educating?
So basically what I do is I talk about my life from transforming from a female to a male and then getting into pornography. I create sexual wellness products for the transgender male community. I've created the very first sex toy for trans men. So I talk about my lineage.
And what is the very first sex toy?
It's called the Buck Off.
I love it. What is it? Tell me about it.
It's like a stroker that you stick. So what happens is when we take testosterone, our clitorises grow very large. And so you can stick this over top of your clitoris and stroke just like a man. Wow. So it basically gives you this whole mental.
It's a clit sucker.
Mental.
Yeah.
It's a mini, and also it's a mini stroker, so you feel like you're stroking your penis and not touching your vagina.
And of course that's.
I mean,
I lips, so it's a little more tender. The skin.
I usually use
I
other.
can do it so it fits with our anatomy, not with a not with a biological male.
Right,
anatomy.
yeah.
I have no problem stroking another man's penis because if my clit is only, well, trust me, it's very sensitive. But I'm just saying, I mean, suck it, fuck it, lick it. You better do a good job.
Right on. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Why would anybody want to give up the clit?
No, I know. It's
Because
actually
you know what?
really...
Men don't really know what the clit is all about.
No, you're right. They don't. And
excuse me, I don't know about you, but there's nothing like squirting 20 times in a row. I mean, a man might come once he goes to sleep. Honey, I will soak your bed. Do the job well.
Right on.
I don't know about you, but I'm just talking. I'm just talking.
I'm sorry. That's called the
Buck Off.
Off.
The Buck
You
Off.
have like a whole series, like the Buck Wild.
Yeah, I have the Buck Off, the Kiss X, and then the Fun Boy. And
Excuse
the
me,
Fun
I
Boy.
am waiting for a few freebies.
No, I know. I'll bring you everything. And I also have the Buckshot, which is the first CBD erection drink. Yeah, I'll send you all the the Buckshot is the first.
Buckshot.
Buckshot is the very
Does
first.
that mean snake oil a little bit?
hang on,
It's one of the biggest sellers ever.
Amazing.
It's all
CBD
natural CBD erection drink called the Buckshot.
So it is the organic Viagra.
It's exactly right.
I need some.
100%.
I mean, every man over 35,
Yes, it's
25,
real.
should be on Viagra or the CBD. I am promoting.
It's a real thing.
The buck up and
No, it's
off.
why I also have my own cannabis business. Yeah, I have a cannabis company called Pride Wellness.
You are a man-woman thing of all things. You have just worked the system, honey, and I love
because
it.
for all of us, I create this for our communities. Right?
I'll be waiting for my gift basket.
No, you're
I
gonna
feel
get
like
a fat
since
gift
we're the Oscars of the underworld, I'll wait for the
So
gift
I want to touch on
basket.
this because the transition is a transition of just so many things. So from being at your lowest point to suddenly having all this stuff come to you, was that psychologically a difficult
ready for
transition? Basically, like, okay, I'm fighting. I have all this anger, all this hate, and now I have all this love. And
Could you accept the love?
Because a lot of people self-sabotage at that point because they're so familiar with the pain and the
Could
suffering.
you accept the love when it came to you?
That's the only reason I'm here, because I'm very much into where I'm at right now, and it's a gift from whoever wanted to give me this gift.
And you know
the
what?
universe.
I feel that anybody that does not enjoy is
my
ripping
God.
themselves off.
How could I not celebrate what I have? Look at me. I'm like the ugliest man alive. I have a big fat
Honey, I
beard.
beg to
I get
differ.
to walk the world as a man. Nobody looks at me differently.
don't know
and
what
I
you
get
are.
to celebrate my pussy on top of it. Who wouldn't be the happiest man in the world?
You know what? I'm sorry I shaved, but I mean, I always say if you got more hair on your face than I got on my bush, you're not going down there. But I might make an exception in your
But
case.
I like hairy bush. Are you kidding me?
Oh, well.
Let's bring that back.
You got it on your face, hon. I think we need to make a comedy porn.
So honestly,
and I don't
it wasn't
like comedy porn.
overnight. It took me many years to get to this point. But what I'll tell you, really, the underlying thing is my transition. I don't care what anybody says. If it wasn't for me,
You'd be dead.
Physically becoming a
You'd be
man,
dead.
and it's why I fight for the young kids like me today. There are young kids like me. There are young. Transgender is a whole different thing now. It's not what it was about when I transitioned. I transitioned from one binary to the other binary gender. Today we have gender non-conforming. We have transgender.
And I mean, being a man
trans-masculine.
doesn't just mean you have a fucking dick.
No, of course not.
And
but
that's
my
what people
point
have
is,
to understand.
there are
right.
children like me who have actual gender dysphoric feelings and want to kill themselves because they want the world to see them as men.
So what do you think of John Waters' point? He goes, "We need auditions. There's too many now. It's too common."
That's my point. My point is, there's a difference between between what's happening today and a lot of what I did.
Yes.
And so my point is, I literally had a sex change. This was a sex change.
Yeah.
I live as a man.
Yes.
There are children out there who literally want to be exactly like me. They're not transgender. They're not non-binary. They're
And
not
again,
any
why
of
do
those.
we have to define it?
Exactly, but we do because we've made an umbrella term. And when you make an umbrella, it's like if we made an umbrella term for music. What?
Yeah.
No, there's all different kinds of music and energy.
even
You
when
can't
he-
say that. You can't say we're all music. No, we're
Well,
not.
and it's the ridiculous need to pigeonhole
Yes,
and categorize,
right,
which
which is
I've always
dangerous.
fought
That's,
against.
again, anti-individual.
There you
Because
go.
They want to fucking box
Yes.
it, and they want it to be
Yes.
that, and they want
because why? Number one, control. Once you do that, you have control.
The first line in my bio,
Yes.
PR, is I refuse and defy categorization.
Right on.
Because you can't put me in any
can't.
category.
It can change
I
daily.
mean, imagine Mae West, who's really a faggot truck driver. And that's how I describe myself. And I mean, live in that for a minute, and you know what? I would not change a fucking
No,
thing
of course
at
not.
all. I
Yeah.
just can't help it. I'm so damn
People
cute.
want simple answers. This world
Yes.
is a
Yes.
psychedelic, insane
Yes.
thing, and they want just these simple solutions and answers.
wanna look at you and size you up.
They'll,
Right.
they'll
Well, there's
never
that.
find. They'll never find it.
Right.
They have to be at peace with the complexity and the
Thank
chaos
you.
and all that stuff.
It is a bit easier now because of the access of information.
100% it
because
is.
of people that have set the path, and you being one of them. Let's talk about your sex line of toys.
right.
Where do we get that?
So you can buckangel.com. You can get everything.
I
from.
can't
So-
wait.
So
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
created a line of toys that did not exist for. Do you know how old the sex toy business is? 40, 50 years old.
Not
Never
right.
ever has a
And let's
transgender
say-
male
no.
toy been made.
And the first
ever.
vibrators were made to
Right.
cure female hysteria.
That's right. That's
and look,
right.
the only time when I have an electric vibrator on me, I get into female hysteria. I want that nut. I want that nut.
That's right.
And they never fail me. It don't fail me.
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
the
you
whole
know,
point of making those
Don't give me the
toys.
butterfly or the rabbit. I want
The rabbit.
I want that $20 wall electric vibrator, which I've had since the age of 17. Works every time. You might have a few other accoutrements.
Sanding, you know those sanding machines? Those work really good too. Because and
Let's
you
talk
can
about
sit on top of
let's
it.
talk about the violet wand for a minute. We won't go there anyway. Bugangel.com. All your sexual needs will be satisfied in one way or another. Because if you can't satisfy yourself, who are you going to satisfy? God, I sound like RuPaul now.
That's right. Commercials.
I wish I looked like that bitch.
You do?
I kind of did.
all right.
I bet RuPaul wishes it looked like me. I'm just saying. I think RuPaul ripped me off. Not really. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sharon
no,
Needles,
no,
my
no,
favorite.
we're gonna edit all
My
that.
favorite
That's
drag
not
queen is
true.
Sharon Needles.
Oh yeah.
You know Sharon
Of
Needles?
course.
That's an
Old
amazing
school.
drag queen.
Super old school.
I mean,
yeah.
anybody that comes out in
Yeah.
drag and sticks a needle in their
That's
left
right.
hand.
I'm reading and I'm hearing about these the young trans culture wars with old drag queens,
and with me. Like, it's
And the
ridiculous.
drag queens are like,
Right.
we are beaten up. Like you're not going to fucking tell
Going
me what
after
the
the
fuck.
raw-
I
That's
was-
that privileged attitude, and it's a very dangerous
the
attitude.
it is.
And it's shutting down conversation. And if you don't speak like them, you're trans. They call me transphobic all the time because
I mean,
I say
that-
tranny and go fuck yourself.
Well, and 'cause they're so fucking uptight.
They're so up. No, because they are actually being led the wrong direction. They are being led by some entity out there that's saying, if you don't do this, you are not trans.
Because again, you're
kids are looking for a
conforming,
space.
conforming to
Conforming.
outsider status is
This is
ridiculous.
not
Well, the thing is,
okay.
well, that's the thing with academia and a lot of it's in
Yes.
these institutions because theory is not reality.
That's
And
right.
if you try to realize shit, the amount of obstruction as soon as you get out the door,
Right on.
and how do you fucking actually
Right.
find yourself and actually find yourself in this very crowded obstructionist world?
Yes.
And if you're living in a bubble
Lost.
of theory,
That's
it,
right.
It doesn't. It happens in a vacuum. It's not reality.
That's right.
And so they have to be able to get. Well, they're not in reality.
They're
And
not.
So they go from college
Yes.
to their bedroom on the computer and stay in the vacuum of theory. And it's like that's not how the world fucking works.
No, but they think it is, and that's why they're going to explode. Look, there's this thing called detransitioning that's happening right now.
Okay.
It's happening at a
Interesting.
very rapid rate. And I've been talking about it for years, but no one fucking listens to me because I'm just a porn star tranny dude. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm fucking transitioned 25 years ago. I'm
Right.
57. I know a lot. I don't
Yeah.
know everything,
Well,
but
you're
I
on the
pretty
front-
much
you're on
know
the
a
fucking
lot.
front lines.
And I'm watching these young, mostly young girls becoming men at such a rapid rate. You don't think somebody can go on YouTube and be influenced? Of course, a 16-year-old. I was influenced by music, by punk rock, by all the stuff out there that I thought was cool and I needed to be a part of because I didn't feel a part of. We are not doing mental health care. There's a thing called self-ID. Any kid can say, I'm trans now.
Right.
And that's called actually self-IDing, and you're supposed to be okay with that. What about mental health care?
Yeah,
what about talking to
I'm
kids
glad you
about
brought
what's
that up.
going on?
I'm glad you brought that up.
You cannot just
It's not- it's
transition
never
a
taught-
kid.
it's never talked about.
Because they shut it down, and that's why they don't like me, because I don't shut it down, and I go and I talk about it at such a high space because I have a following where people listen to me because I care about these fucking kids. Not that I don't want them to transition. Of course I do, but I want them to transition where they'll never look back. And when you start to look back, it means you're not doing it for the reason that needs to be talked
Well, also,
about.
I want to add this. We're of a certain age where our opinions and our desires and our needs can change. The problem is, I don't think you always have to be one thing. You might not have been born what you want to be.
That's right.
But you might be able to change that decade after decade. There shouldn't be a stigma attached to that.
Right, there is.
But really being, deciding to transition, I call it transmorphing, into anything is a big decision. But it doesn't mean that you can't change your opinion 10 years later. But
Well, the problem
when
is-
surgery is involved.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
You can't. All of that is fine because that's like if I say I want to be buck and I wear these
Right.
clothes, but I don't get surgery, fine. You can change that. But when you start giving a 16-year-old kid top surgery, meaning
Not needed.
removing their
Right.
breasts
No.
at 16 because they're like, mommy and daddy, now I'm going to get flack for this and I don't give a fuck. You can come at me all you want. I care about that one kid.
Exactly.
It is literally going to make me cry now because I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
Right.
there are kids who are having surgeries who will literally
Regret
be
it.
destroyed
Yeah.
for the rest of their
Yeah.
and we're all just sitting around like it's fucking K.
And the thing is,
fuck
your-
all you people
your
out there
genitals
who just don't
do
say
not
a
define
fuck.
you.
First off, how dare we let 16-year-olds
Right.
decide who they are at 16 when it comes to surgery and hormones? I'm going to tell you, we are going to have the hugest mess on our hands. And who's responsible for that?
Right.
Me? Because I
No,
didn't say anything.
no. It's the parents.
That's why I say things, because it won't be me, because I speak out against it. So the people who are not speaking out against it are the ones who are going to be held.
And again, it's like your genitals do not define who you are.
The problem is this: it is not that. What I did is not that simple. It didn't just all of a sudden I became a man, dump
And you
water,
waded
and I,
into
I
your-
went to shit tons of fucking mental health care. I work on myself daily. I go to therapy. I talk about it. I meditate. I don't just fucking like add water and I'm a man. I literally work on this on a daily basis. We're telling these kids, once you get surgery, once you take hormone, everything
It doesn't
will be fine.
solve-
No way. It's going to be worse.
But
It's going to be
these are
worse.
the same kids that are telling professors what they should be.
Thank you.
What, you know, I'm going to
Safe
tell you what I'm
room.
going to be taught.
Not okay. And fuck off for actually telling a professor that they cannot challenge a student.
Oh,
how
ow.
dare we
People
do
can't
that?
handle
How dare
different
safe rooms
opinions.
No, we
exist?
created a victimized, fucking insane victimized culture of kids. Do you know that they took out debate class out of universities?
absolutely
because they're hurting
outrageous.
people's feelings. Kids were getting their feelings hurt.
Excuse me. Let's stop
It's
for a
real.
minute. Kids are getting their feelings hurt. We had our whole lives hurt by circumstances that were out of our control. People get their feelings hurt. It means they've been closeted and safe, little spoiled and pampered bitches. The thing is, your feelings don't have to get hurt. If you are truly outside of everything, you better buck up. That's
Right
why we're
on.
talking to Buck Angel.
Right on.
Because your feelings being hurt are not the same as having your ass whipped, fucked, being abused, being tortured by religion or economic poverty. Which is interesting is nobody talked about victimization when I started talking about
right.
it. Nobody talked about transitioning when you started talking about it. Look, we're all victims of something, but I don't wear the victim badge.
Of course
I
not.
go beyond that because you know what? It's all cyclical. The world is cruel. It is not safe. If you think it's safe because you had a safe family life and now people are challenging you, fuck the fuck up. As a child, outside of everything. But at one point, you turned to music or films or art, and some things did make you feel like, all right, maybe those are my people. What was some of the music or films or art that influenced you that
that's
made
a
you
great-
feel like, here I am, I'm going there?
I was in high school in the late 70s, punk rock, Sex Pistols, stuff like that. But I didn't really, I would say specifically
Well, also
get
some male-dominated bullshit.
very male dominant
crappy
because I
rock.
wanted to be a man. No, for me, it was about men. It wasn't necessarily about women. It was totally about looking like that. I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to, so any kind of ultra hardcore masculinity, you know, I always was attracted
So that's why
to.
punk rock was attracted.
Was attracted to me because it was highly
aggression.
masculine, high aggression, punching. I love to get punched in the face.
Wait a minute. Buck, we have to talk.
I love to get kicked, and I love to get, you know what I mean? Like, because
We'll
it
talk
made
later.
me feel male.
So
no, it's not right.
You're
but-
dumb.
Wait. It's right if it feels right.
So the Dom girlfriend that you had for a while, and that was that part of it too. I mean, you like
totally.
being punched because you were the bottom in that one.
Well, I would
Or
just
you guys
say
went back and forth?
it was more. I was a very aggressive person.
Yeah.
I hated myself,
So
and I didn't
you
know
used
I
somebody
hated
else's
myself.
fist
I did
to
not
punch
know
you
I hated
out.
myself. I thought everything I was doing was.
But look,
that's what men do. So I started modeling as a woman, right? And I started getting sent around like to Europe and everything. And I still would be fighting, and I would show up to casting
the
with
black eye
eyes.
that you gave yourself.
No, that guys would hit me like I would be literally fighting
But
10
again,
dudes at one time.
you're using their fist to punch your own
for my
self
own
out.
face.
Well,
Totally,
we know
it's
this.
for me to feel that. So
I've
eventually,
experienced it with
yeah.
many people before,
Yeah,
men.
it's a real thing. It made me feel masculine to show up with a black eye.
And
or
I
be
mean,
in
look, the
fights.
endorphins rush in, and what is pain? It's gone tomorrow, but it might erase what came before it.
Right, and it didn't make me focus on not being a man. It made me focus on the pain and like the cutting.
That's why
I would
people
take razor
cut.
blades and
Okay,
cut myself. all of it.
let's talk about that for a minute, because what people don't understand about cutting is it's a focus of where you can see the pain,
That's right.
bleed out, and then heal. And it's you administering it as opposed to all the others who have abused you.
That's right.
And people have to understand, I mean, it makes sense. I lived with somebody who came with 163 scars, left with 243, and I tried to take it away from him, but get him to understand, because if somebody else did that to you, you'd fucking kill them.
That's right.
But you do it to yourself. You're trying to kill the others
That's right.
that have hurt you. And I don't endorse it, and mostly it's a female thing.
No, it's not endorsing it. Talking about it is
But
really
you
the
gotta
way that
talk
we
about it.
start
You gotta
to
understand
heal.
what it is.
There
Exactly.
are so many trans kids specifically
That
who
do it.
cut themselves, and it's why I'm very vocal about it and talk about it so they feel a safe space to say,
Exactly. And,
you know, they call me Tranpa, by the way.
Tranpa.
So they go, Tranpa, I haven't told ever anybody this, but I'm cutting myself.
And,
And,
I mean,
I'm thinking,
so
wow,
many people
the fact
do
that
it.
they feel safe enough to talk
Well,
to me.
I mean, there's cutting and there's bulimia and
there's
there's
so
anorexia and
many
there's so many,
things. So
so many
many.
ways that people
Yep.
abuse themselves because they've been abused.
Well, there are actually a few bulimia is a symptom of anorexia. It's a few things with all the symptoms that come out in many
Right
different
on.
Which
forms.
is why
Yeah.
I really endorse that all men or women have some kind of sports discipline. Like that's
Yes.
why I boxed for 8 years, because first of all, people come to me and want to get punched, and I don't want to kill them. And second of all, I never hated myself, but I have a lot of aggression and I have a lot of violence. My blood is contaminated with violence. I'm not sitting here being a violent person, but sometimes it's not roid rage because I'm not on steroids, but my hormones are quite imbalanced. And I maintain a pretty good front most of the time. Boxing helps.
Sure, any exercise, I think.
Can I
helps
ask a
that.
question?
Yeah.
And millennials don't like to exercise at all. I mean, forget it. They'd rather cut their wrists
That's
than walk
right.
around the block.
Yeah.
We're talking about tolerance. So you sustain your kind of universal tolerance. When you had all these falling outs, especially with your gay female friends, when that was happening, have any of them come back to you and apologized or made peace?
Great question.
Yeah.
Well, actually, some of them have come back to ask how to transition. Now.
Okay,
So I had to
interesting.
really work through that. I had to be like, okay, dude, well, now you're sort of like this guy out there and people are going to come to you. And they did. The girls who called me traitor, the girls who called me a loser, the girls who called me all kinds of fucked up names are now wanting to transition. So I have those two people, right? With the good guy and the bad guy on my shoulder going, fuck them, tell them to fuck off. And then
And
I
they
have the
need
other guy
help.
who's the activist
Yeah.
going, dude, it's your job. You, have to
you
help
have to
them.
be you have to
I
be bigger
stand
and bigger
up.
person.
Yes, I do.
And
Which
you,
is what
and
I
show
did.
through example.
You know,
Yeah.
I
is
don't
what I did.
understand any hatred against any individual. I understand hatred against systems.
Yeah.
I understand hatred against institutions, against the government, against politics. I just don't understand how anybody. It really means they hate a part of themselves.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Everybody should be
Yeah.
how they want to fucking be. It's not for me or anybody else to decide. I'm very accepting of people. I don't judge. I hate on a grander scale. One more time. It's like, stop hating yourself. It doesn't matter what you are. You're really not alone.
But
there
you know,
are other
community
freaks out
perpetuates
there.
that.
Right.
Community perpetuates hate because people get this cult-like mentality. And that's the problem I have with community, is that now community is this way of
We need
being.
cunt
It's not a
community.
way of being, right? It's
But
a way
cunt community.
Right,
Not
we all
community.
have like-mindedness, yet we all have different opinions. That's a community. Community today is if you don't think alike, you're not part of. That is unbelievable
It's
behavior.
another form of conformity.
It is, and it's actually destroying our LGBTQIA plus whatever the fuck's
You
going
wanna
on
call it.
community. Yeah.
And part of conformity is people think they're going to feel safe within that restriction.
right, and they're not.
But it's bullshit.
That's right.
Because you know what? The people that want you to conform will turn against you the minute you differ.
100%.
Well, all this behavior shows how equal people are becoming because how normal and normie and just like it's like all the criticism that I had against just like the bullshit straight and just average conservative culture is surfacing in all the groups now.
So real.
It's like
real.
well, guess what? I love and hate certain human beings, and that's it. It's like what the
But
fuck?
okay, beside that, now more than ever, there are places you can find and people you can locate, and people that are telling the truth and expressing individuality through music, through films, through their existence. So there are more examples out there than what we even had.
Oh, totally.
And we are some of those examples. So come unto me, my fellow children, and get yourself off and love yourself. Because if you don't, you're ripping yourself off. I don't understand how, I guess just me as a natural rebellious spirit, it's like, I am not what they wanted to make me. I am who I am. And self-loathing, this is not what you're born with. That's what somebody else puts upon you. You got to love yourself. You have to become your own lover. You might have to self-segregate. Go read Paradoxia, the last chapter of my book, A Predator's Diary. It talks about having to do this, have to actually segregate, especially when you're a glutton, as we've been. And when gluttony is no longer enough, you have to then reduce it to the most basic elemental and appreciate the simplest and most beautiful things, and especially yourself. Because if you don't, you will never be satisfied. And if you are not satisfied, you're ripping yourself off. Because it is not anybody else's responsibility to step in and satisfy your needs. It's for you to understand what they are and go and fucking get them.
Right on.
Hello.
Yeah, church.
Fuck it up, baby. That's right.
It's Sunday church time, kids.
It is always the church of lunch.
Buck, is there anything?
Welcome to my coven.
I said earlier, is there anything you want to plug that's coming up or any projects coming up that you would like to talk about?
Well, God, I'm always doing a project.
I know, yeah, exactly. So you're always working
Well,
on
they
something.
can just get the information on your website.
Yeah, just go to buckangel.com. Right, I just got finally a literary agent, so I'll be writing a book
Perfect.
very
wow.
soon. Yeah, so I'm opening a cannabis delivery service in Palm Springs called Pride Wellness Delivery Service.
And that's an
LGBT focused delivery
and
service
that's
for all the old gays in Palm Springs.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
totally. It's
In
gonna
Palm
be-
Springs.
In Palm
okay.
Springs, dude. Yeah, no one wants to leave the house. It's a no-brainer.
Crazy rich bastards want to deliver. Come on,
Everyone
bring it
wants
on.
cannabis, and no one wants to leave the house.
Yeah, exactly. It's all delivery services.
That's right. Right on. That's it.
Beautiful.
This has been the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and BuckAngel.com. All kinds of good things that will actually make you feel much better about yourself. And if you don't feel good about yourself, please come to Mama. That would be Big Mama Lunch. I'll sort you out. Nothing that a good slap on the ass won't care. I'm just saying, I'll give you a kiss and a hug. And maybe something more if you really need it.